All right, let's see. As I'm sure you're aware, testing is this week. It's starting tomorrow. Let's see. We have a lot of juniors in here. So the juniors, you've got kind of like a break tomorrow. There will be no virtual classes tomorrow for juniors. Well, for anyone, no virtual classes tomorrow. So if you're a junior, you can just work on your assignments in peace because you won't be expected to attend anything. Freshmen and sophomores, you're going to be up at the high school taking the ACT Aspire. All right, so you'll need to be up here tomorrow. There's already room assignments out there somewhere. You should have emails. If not, they'll have a list when you get to the school. You can look at your name and see what room you're supposed to be in. But you have to be here by no later than 8:45 in the morning. The next 2 mornings, it's Tuesday and Wednesday, so there will be no classes, no virtual classes, Tuesday and Wednesday for you guys. So remember, juniors, you don't have ACT Aspire testing anymore, so you just get a day with no virtual classes, 2 days with no virtual classes held. So that is coming up tomorrow and Wednesday. So, all right, let me pull up our lesson for this week. Oh, they moved my button, so it's got me waving my hand. Hello. No. All right, let's pull up this week's stuff here. All right, the notes are in Google Classroom for this, and I'm going to go through them here. I'll be posting the video as soon as I get edited this afternoon because testing the next 2 days, I don't have time to do it later. But let's go back and talk about long division. Let's go back to elementary school. When we have 72 divided by 12, right? So we'd put the 72 underneath here and put the 12 out there. And we'd say, how many times does 12 go into 72? Say, okay, well, that's 6. So 6 times 2, carry the 1, 72. Okay, we're done. How nice. 72 divided by 12 equals 6. What about this one? Let's try this. 254 divided by 3. Well, this one's a little bigger, so it doesn't go into 2, so we pull another number, 25. 3 goes into 25 8 times. So we take 8 times 3, 24. So we subtract. That gives us just 1. We bring down the next number, 14. How many times does 3 go into 14? 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So we have a remainder of 2. Just bringing back the memories, all the little feel-good stuff of elementary school. 84, remainder 2. Well, we can even use polynomials in this. 8x squared divided by 2. How many times does 2 go into 8x squared? It goes in there 4x squared number of times. 2 times 4x squared is 8x squared. That's it. So we divide 8x squared by 2, we get 4x squared. Okay, that's all the easy stuff. Now we're moving on to the biggest. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have some fun today. Some of this division, there's a lot of work, and some of it not so much. So let's talk about what do we call these things when we, even back up in here. What is the terms all mean something? So what we're dividing into is our dividend. What we're dividing by is our divisor. So we divide the divisor into the dividend, and we end up with a quotient. And this, of course, is the remainder. So the quotient times the divisor plus the remainder equals the dividend. So the quotient, which is 3x squared, times the divisor was 3. So 3 times 3x squared is 9x squared, plus the remainder is just 1x squared. So 3x squared times 3 is 9x squared, plus another x squared gets us back to our original dividend, 10x squared. Works the same way up here. 3 times 84 is 252 plus the remainder gives us back to the 254. It's just we can do that with polynomials. So if we want to write a quotient as a quotient and remainder, our quotient would be 3x squared with a remainder of x squared. If we write it as a polynomial expression, it ends up 3x squared plus x squared 3's because we divided by 3. Like we could have said the remainder up here was 2/3 because we divided by 3. There's 2/3. So as a polynomial expression, we just take the remainder and put it over a fraction with the divisor. Right? The remainder and the divisor. All right. So remember this when dividing polynomials. Polynomials must be in blank form, decreasing degree. So we call that standard form. Right? Standard form. So start with the largest, x squared, x to the third, x to the fourth, whatever's largest, and you list them going smaller. All terms must be included. So if you have an x to the fourth, you must have, I'm going to underline that, must have an x to the third. If there's not an x to the third term, write 0. You can even put 0x to the thirds if you want. 0 for the missing term. Because that's the coefficient. There is an x to the third term, but it's 0. 0x third. Repeat the process of dividing, multiplying, subtracting until no more divisions can be made. Place each term in the quotient directly above its counterpart in the dividend. So if there's an x squared, write it directly above the x squared. So let's look at some examples of this. Get rid of that page. And we have, go up to the top of here. So we're going to divide a second degree polynomial by a first degree. So this is x squared. This is just an x. So it's second degree by first degree. So we're going to write it just like we would our numbers when we were kids. X minus 8 divided into x squared minus 12x plus 25. So with a binomial, x minus 8, we're going to look at the first two terms there. And we're going to look at the first term. How many times does x go into x squared? Well, it goes x amount of times. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a 12x. 12x. Almost forgot that x after that. Plus 25. So we line up the x over the x underneath in the divisor, in the dividend. X minus 8 is x. So we're looking at the first term. X goes in x squared, x number of times. So now we multiply. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Right? And now we subtract. We're subtracting that. X squared minus x squared. That's 0. That goes away. Negative 12x minus negative 8x. That means we're adding it. So this is negative 4x. Then we bring down the next term, plus 25. So now, how many times does x go into negative 4x? It goes in negative 4 amount of times. Multiply again. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 8 is plus 32. Remember, you subtract negative 4x minus negative 4x, which means negative 4x plus 4x. That's 0. That goes away. 25 minus 32 is negative 7. So it has a remainder of negative 7. All right. Check your quotient. Check your quotient. So now we have to check to see if this is right. So we're going to take x minus 4 and multiply it by our divisor. And then when we're done, we'll add the remainder on there and see if we get back to our dividend. So we have to distribute, right? They got to go times both of that. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Then we have to distribute to negative 4. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 8 times negative 4 is a plus 32. All right, so these are like terms, right? We can combine both of those because they're both x. This is x squared, cannot be combined. X squared minus 8x minus 4x is minus 12x plus 32. Now we need to add that remainder. The remainder was a negative 7. So if we add that on there, that gives us x squared minus 12x, 32 minus 7 plus 25. And that is what our original dividend is. So our answer is correct. That is our quotient. So write the quotient as a polynomial. So it is x minus 4 minus 7x minus 8. Right? Because we take the remainder, it goes on top. So that's why it became a minus, because it was a minus 7. And we take our divisor, and it goes on the bottom. So that is our answer as a polynomial. So let's look at dividing a third degree polynomial by a first degree. So again, we're going to start with the x plus 6 and this negative 5x to the third. Now, right away, they're throwing us a curveball. This is not in standard form because here's x squared and this is just x to the first. So we have to rearrange it. 24x squared plus 28x minus 48. Got to pay attention and make sure you put them in standard form. These two are out of order. Out of order. So it has to go third power, second power, first power, 0 power. All right, so x plus 6, we're going to look at these first two terms. How many times does x go into negative 5x to the third? So it's going to be negative, because this is just 1x, right? So negative 5, 1, so it's negative 5. And if you divide x into that, it's x squared. So when we multiply this times the first term, it should always equal the first term under here. Negative 5x squared times x is negative 5x to the third. And then negative 5x squared plus 6 is negative 30x squared. And again, remember, we're subtracting that. Negative 5x to the third minus negative 5x to the third is 0. Negative 24x squared minus negative 30x squared, which means it's a plus 30. So we have 6x squared. That's what we get when we subtract, because this is a minus and a minus. So that's a plus. So how many times does x go into 6x squared? We got to bring the next term down. Plus 28x. 6x squared divided by x. So that's going to be a 6x. And note we write that over the x term. 6x times x is 6x squared. 6x times 6 is 36x. Again, we're subtracting. 6x squared minus 6x squared, that's nothing. 28x minus 36x is minus 8x. And then we have to bring this term down, minus 48. All right, so how many times does x go into negative 8x? Negative 8 amount of times. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times 6 is negative 48. Hey, looky there. When we subtract, our remainder is 0. Nothing, nada. So this divides in perfectly. So that means if you factored this, if you took that and factored it, it would be negative 5x squared plus 6x minus 8 times x plus 6. Because you multiply those back together, you should end up with this. There's no remainder. There's no remainder, so this is the factors of this third degree polynomial. Then you can find the factors of this. If it turns out nicely, you can use quadratic formula and see if it's a nice, lovely factors. But if I want to write the quotient as a polynomial, that's not hard on this one because there's no remainder. It's negative 5x squared plus 6x minus 8. And the quotient is just what we get after dividing. Let's look at one more over here. Divide a fourth degree by a first degree. So I've gone up. First we had a second degree, then a third degree, and now a fourth degree. So we're going to divide by x minus 4. We got x to the fourth minus 3x to the third minus 4x squared. Uh-oh. X to the fourth, x to the third, x to the squared, minus 6. See the problem there? We're missing the x term. Plus 0x minus 6. There's no x term. Its coefficient is 0. This is exactly the same as this. All right, let's divide. X into x to the fourth. It would be x to the third. So we'll put it over the x to the third. Multiply. X times x to the third is x to the fourth. Negative 4 times x to the third is negative 4x to the third. Again, subtract. X to the fourth minus x to the fourth, that's nothing. Negative 3x to the third minus negative 4x to the third. So plus. So that's just x to the third. It's 1. You can put the 1 if you want to, but it's just x to the third. Bring this down. Negative 4x squared. How many times does x go into x to the third? Well, it goes in an x squared number of times. X squared times x is x to the third. X squared times negative 4 is negative 4x squared. Oh, look, when we subtract, we got x to the third minus 4x squared minus x to the third minus 4x squared. That's 0. And then we also bring down that. So how many times does x go into 0? A 0 amount of times. So 0 plus 0, 0x. This is still a 0. Bring down the minus 6. How many times does x go into 0? That's it. There's nothing left there either, just a remainder of negative 6. So we write this as a quotient. We've got x to the third plus x to the second minus 6 over x minus 4. Because that's our remainder and the divisor. So when you divide that, turns out there is no x to the first, and there's no constant. There's just a partial constant there. All right, so that's a nice refresher on long division. Now let's show you the fun way to do this. All right, so the first thing it talks about is dividing by a monomial, right? Not a binomial, not a trinomial, just a single term like 3x to the squared, 3x squared. So to divide that, we just divide this into each term. 6x to the fourth divided by 3x squared is 2x squared, because 6 divided by 3 is 2. Negative 15x to the third divided by 3x squared. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. X to the third divided by x squared is just x. And then 3x squared divided by 3x squared is it's not 0, it's 1. It's divided by. Divided by. This is not subtracting. This is divided by. So 3x squared divided by 3x squared is 1. So that's the answer when we divide this by this. We could also set it up with the little bracket and put the 3x squared out here and put that in there and done it that way as well. And it might have been easier to see it if we'd done that way. So let's do that over here, because this one looks a little trickier. 7ab 21. I'm not sure if we're going to have room to do this over here, but we'll see what we can do. 10a to the third b squared plus 63a squared b. Whew. Okay. 7ab into 21a to the fifth b squared. So how many times does that go in there? Well, it goes in there. I guess I should, well, it's going to be just like it is. 3. How many times does a go into a to the fifth? It goes a to the fourth. How many times b go into b to the third? B squared. So if you multiplied those back, 21, a to the fifth, b to the third. That first term is always going to go away, right? And then we would divide by the second term. 7 into negative 14 is minus 2. A into a to the third is a squared b. And we multiply that back, it's going to equal negative 14 a to the third b squared. And that term's going to go away. Then we would do the last one. 9a, and the b's just 1. So our answers, kind of highlight that, 3a to the fourth b squared minus 2a squared b plus 9a. Just dividing by a monomial. Dividing by a binomial, we just did. We just did that on the other page. But let's do this real quick because we're going to compare it. Now let's do this one instead. We just did that in that page. We just wrote it differently. But I want to do long division and I want to do synthetic division. That's what we're going to study today in this second lesson. I don't know if you remember synthetic division. If you've seen that, it's a wonderful thing. The exact same problem, both methods. Let's look at long division first. We know how to do that. X plus 8 divided by, or divided into, pardon me, not by. Okay. How many times does x go into x squared? Well, it goes in there x amount of times. So x times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. Subtract that. That's nothing. 3x minus 8x is negative 5x. Bring down the minus 43, right? X goes into negative 5x, negative 5 amount of times. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 8 is negative 40. Subtract. So when you subtract a negative, those become positive. So that's 0. This is negative 3. So this has a remainder of negative 3. Right? So that means this factors, if we write this as a coefficient, we could say it equals f of x equals x plus 8 times x minus 5 times negative 3 x plus 8. Or actually, it would be minus that. Minus, because that's a remainder. Yay! Minus 3 x plus 8. So our divisor is the x minus 5, negative 3x plus 8. And what about synthetic division? Synthetic division works like this. We just look at the coefficients, just the numbers. That's a negative 43. That's a 3. That's just a 1. There's not a coefficient on that, so it's just a 1. So we're looking at 1, 3, and negative 43. And we're going to divide it. It works a little differently. We put this kind of symbol for synthetic division. X plus 8. If that equals 0, x plus 8, x plus 8 equals 0. What is x? Well, if we subtract 8 from both sides, That means x equals -8. So we're going to divide by -8 because that's what that factor would be if it equals 0. Divide by -8. So here's how synthetic division works. The first number we just bring straight down because we need something to work with, a 1. And then we multiply -8 times 1 and put it right here. Now we just add. You always add. These are always add. This is always multiply. Multiply here, add here. 3 plus -8 is -5. Multiply -8 times -5. That's a positive 40. Add those together. -43 plus 40 is -3. Here's our answer. Anything in this last one is always the remainder. We have a remainder of -3. This is our term. The first one is just the number. The next one is the x. X minus 5 with a remainder of -3. Same thing we got over here. But this is just multiplying and adding, multiplying and adding. This is like dividing, then multiplying and subtracting. Different steps. Like, okay, that looks a lot simpler. Let's try another problem. Got a few more problems I want to look at. They're a little bigger problems. You see if you like the synthetic division. Here you got your choice. Use long or synthetic. Your choice. I'm going to do synthetic. If you want to check it by doing long, you can do that. N minus 7. So if n minus 7 equals 0, that means n equals 7. So I'm going to divide by 7. My coefficients, 2, -16, and 19. Just the coefficients. And since it starts with n squared, our answer is going to start with an n. You always lose one of these here. So, all right, so the first number just comes down. 2. 2 times 7 is 14. Add those. That's -2. -2 times 7 is -14. Add those. It's 5. So our answer, when you divide n minus 7 by this, is 2n minus 2. And then we'll do it this way. 5 over n minus 7. It's just a remainder of 5, right? 2n minus 2 with a remainder of 5 n minus 7s. That's what we divided by. Let's look at a bigger one. Here we've got y to the third, y squared, y and 2, y minus 2. So if it's y minus 2, we're going to divide by 2. Again, our coefficients, 1, 5, -7, and 2. First one always just comes down. 2 times 1, 2. 5 plus 2, 7. 2 times 7, 14. -7 plus 14, 7. 2 times 7, 14. Add those. Okay, it's like, okay, that was pretty fast, Mr. Brock. Well, yeah, you're just multiplying here and then just adding up the numbers each time. 2 times 1 was 2. Add those together. 7. 2 times 7 is 14. Add those together. 7, because that's a -7 plus a positive 14. So multiply those together. That's another 14. Add those 16. So our answer, remember, this is the constant. This is the x. This is the x squared. If there was more, it'd be the x to the third and so on. So we start with x squared plus 7x. That's our coefficient. Plus 7 with a remainder of 16. I guess we'd say a plus if I'm going to do it as a quotient. 16 y minus 2's. All right. Well, what about if we're missing powers here? We're going to do 2 more examples, and I'll show you this week's assignment. Missing powers. So again, k plus 5. So we're going to divide by -5. All right, -5. You set this equal to 0, and that's the number you use. K plus 5 equals 0. K equals -5. K to the third, our first coefficient is 1. What's our next coefficient? Oh, well, if we pay attention, we got K to the third and then K to the first. What happened to our K to the second? It's there, but it has a coefficient of 0. And then we have negative 17 and we have 32. So there's our 4 coefficients. If it's third power, there should be 4 coefficients. First one just comes down. 1. Because we got to have something to multiply by. So the first one always just drops down. Negative 5 times 1. That's negative 5. Negative 5 plus 0. Remember, these add. Well, that's just negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5. Positive 25. Add 25 plus a negative 17. That's just going to be 8. Multiply negative 5 times 8, negative 40. Add negative 8. So the answer, when you divide K plus 5 into K to the third minus 17K plus 32 is X, not X, it's K, pardon me. 1K squared. We always go 1 power below, minus 5K plus 8, and then minus 8K plus 5s, because that's our remainder. So those coefficients just go straight down. And then the negative 8, I got the minus, I put there out front. Oh, let's go to a 4th power one. We're going to finish up with a big one here. X minus 8. So X minus 8 means we're going to divide by positive 8. Coefficients. 8. Negative 64. Oh, look there. We went from X to the third to X. We're missing X squared. It's there. It just has a 0 coefficient, so it's not written. Then we have the 3 and the negative 28. Okay, first one comes down. 8 times 8 is 64. So add those together, that's 0. 8 times 0 is 0. Add those together, that's 0. 8 times 0 is 0. Add those together, that's 3. 8 times 3 is 24. So negative 4 is our remainder. So this is the 3. This is the x. This is the x squared. This is the x to the third. So our answer is 8x to the third plus 3. We skip the x squared and x because they have a coefficient of 0. And then it's minus 4x minus 8. Since that's a negative, we subtract. So that's simplified to just this when you divide that. All right, what's the limitations of this? Well, the limitations is, notice these are all x minus 8, x plus k plus 5, y minus 2. It gets more complicated if we were dividing by 2x plus 7. If there's a coefficient in front of this, if we set that equal to 0, it'd be 2x equals negative 7, x equals negative 7 halves. Now you're having to use a fractional number in here. And that gets a lot more complicated. If you're multiplying 8 times a fraction, and you'll get a fraction answer, and then you got to put that here and add those, and you mess with a lot of fractions. That's why generally you don't do synthetic division unless you have just a coefficient of 1. Then they generally go to long division. If you mess with this, they generally go to long division. But anytime you have a coefficient of 1, synthetic division's quick and easy. Like I say, much more complicated if you're working with a fraction number instead of just a simple k plus 5, x minus 8. So, all right, let me show you your assignment then. We'll go over here. Look, 6 problems. The first 2 problems or long division. Make sure you know how to do long division. These are all show your work. So when you click on that, use long division to find the following quotient. You're dividing n squared plus 11n plus 30 divided by n plus 5. So you need to draw out your little divider symbol, put your n plus 5 out front. I wrote that real sloppy, but anyway, that's what you have on the first one. Get rid of those. All right. Second one, also y minus 7. That's the two long divisions. Then you have 4 that you can choose. You can use synthetic division because I give you that option now. Or if you want to stick with long division, I understand long division, I can do that. Whichever you want to do. Again, if you want full credit, and these are all worth 5 points. If you just give me the answer, you're not going to get 5 points. You got to show me how you got the answer. So these x minus 6, right? So that means you're going to use the 6 and divide it into the coefficients of that right there. All right. Divided by x plus 5, divided by c plus 3, and x minus 3. So they're all possible to do with synthetic division. All 4 of these. Your choice. So you can do that however you like. So that's it. But if you have any questions, you can email me. Do we have a College Board quiz? Thank you for asking that, because I forgot about that last week. So I moved it to this week. All right. So looking in Google Classroom, here's week 33. Here's the notes that I will take pictures to put the completed notes up here. This is just the blank notes. Here's our assignment that we just looked at in formative, but we also have this College Board quiz. All right. If you have not created your College Board account, you'll need to do so. You will need to be logged into College Board. And if you have not joined my class, College Board join codes, I click on that. Here's the join codes. If you're in BHS, use this code. If you're in West, use this code, because College Board keeps it separate for your high schools, because this class is not the only thing you use College Board for. So there's the join codes to make sure you're joined in my class. And then you have this College Board quiz. If you are a BHS student, here's the link to your quiz because it's in your BHS class. If you're a West student, use the second link because it's in your class. It's the same quiz, it's just divided up class. Testing for freshman and sophomore is the next 2 days. You'll be here tomorrow and Wednesday for the ACT Aspire testing. I got to be here by 8:45 both days. So yes, there's 2 days that we will not have classes for you juniors because ACT Aspire is a 2-day testing process. So, all right, yeah. If you get on the quiz, the College Board quiz should be stuff we studied earlier in the semester. If you're totally lost on that, just give it a guess. I'm not going to let that affect your grade. College Board quiz is not going to affect your grade in this class, but I do need you to take it because the College Board is pre-AP and they want all this data to compare. So please take the quiz, but don't worry if you bomb the quiz. It's not going to hurt your grade in here. So I just need you to take that, please. So, all right. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, if you don't have questions, go have fun testing next couple of days or being home the next couple of days, whichever applies to you. Have a great week, guys.